Hey guys, tonight we begin with the grim, dangerous, and not so glamorous world of medieval assassins. Those shadowy figures who crept through castle halls and darkened alleys to change history with a blade and a whisper. While Hollywood makes them look cool, the truth is being a medieval assassin seriously sucked. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture a night so black it swallows the stars. A night where the wind carries not just the chill of autumn, but the weight of 1,000 unspoken sins. In the heart of London, 1350, a scream pierces the clamor of a jeering crowd. Scream that doesn't just echo through the cobblestone streets, but rips through the soul of a 16-year-old girl named Katerina. It's the sound of her brother, Marco's death, his head tumbling into the mud, severed by the cold steel of an executioner's axe on the orders of a corrupt lord. The crowd roars, a beast fed by blood, while Lord Harrington watches from his velvet-draped perch, his lips curling into a smile that promises more cruelty to come. Marco, her shield, her compass, her everything, gone in an instant, leaving Katerina stranded in a world that devours the weak without a second thought. This isn't a tale of shining knights or noble quests. This is a descent into the muck and mire of survival, where justice is a ghost that haunts the living, and vengeance is a fire that consumes all it touches. Katerina's story begins not with a call to greatness, but with a wound so deep it carves her destiny from the bones of her grief. She stands there, trembling, as the crowd disperses, leaving her alone with the dripping scaffold and the lifeless body of the only person who ever made her feel safe. The air reeks of iron and betrayal, and in that moment, something inside her breaks, snaps like a brittle twig underfoot. But from that fracture, a spark ignites, an ember of rage that will soon blaze into something unstoppable. Imagine her, a girl, barely more than a child, her hands still soft from a life not yet hardened by labor, now clenched into fists as she stares at the blood pooling beneath Marco's severed neck. She doesn't cry not yet. Tears are a luxury she can't afford. Instead, she feels the world tilt, the edges of her vision darkening as if the shadows themselves are reaching out to claim her. And maybe they are. Maybe the shadows see something in her, a hunger, a desperation that marks her as one of their own. This isn't the Katerina who giggled at Marco's terrible jokes or helped her mother knead dough in their cramped tenement. This is a new Katerina, born in the dirt and baptized in loss. A girl who will learn to wield a blade not because she wants to, but because the world has left her no other choice. Her parents don't survive the year. Grief is a slow poison, and it leeches the life from them, leaving Katerina an orphan in a city that chews up the vulnerable and spits out their bones. London in 1350 is a labyrinth of filth and fury, narrow alleys choked with refuse, marketplaces buzzing with thieves, and nobles perched atop their towers like vultures, waiting for the next corpse to pick clean. For a girl alone, it's a death sentence. But Katerina doesn't die. She adapts. She learns to move through the crowds like a wisp of smoke, her footsteps silent, her eyes sharp. She listens to the whispers of the underbelly, the beggars, the cut purses, the forgotten, because they know the secrets the powerful ignore. They teach her how to vanish, how to wait, how to strike when no one's looking. And the herbalists, those quiet women with gnarled hands and knowing eyes, show her the power of the earth itself. Foxglove to stop a heart, hemlock to steal a breath, nightshade to plunge a soul into eternal sleep. Her first kill isn't planned, it's born of necessity, a desperate act that sets her on a path she can't unwalk. A merchant in York, a man hollowed out by despair, approaches her in a tavern's flickering light. His hands tremble as he slides a few tarnished coins across the table. His voice a rasp as he begs her to end a corrupt bishop who's bled his family dry. Katerina doesn't take the job for the money, though she needs it, but because she sees Marco in the merchant's haunted eyes, hears his scream in the man's broken pleas. She agrees, and with that choice, she steps fully into the shadows. She dons a pilgrim's robe, the coarse fabric rough against her skin, and pulls the hood low to hide her face. The cathedral looms before her, its spires clawing at the sky, a monument to faith corrupted. The guards are alert, their eyes glinting in the torchlight, but Katerina is patient. She waits for the midnight mass, when the bishop will raise his gilded chalice in a mockery of holiness. Her hands, once clumsy with fear, are steady now as she slips a vial of poison from her sleeve, a brew of her own making, colorless and odorless, a whisper of death in liquid form. With a thief's grace, she swaps the wine, her movements so swift they're invisible to the congregation's bowed heads. The bishop drinks his sermon, faltering mid-sentence, a gasp, a choke, a collapse. The sound of his body hitting the stone floor reverberates like a thunderclap. Katerina is gone before the first scream rises, melting into the night as if she were never there. But the kill doesn't bring peace. That night, she dreams of Marco, not the proud brother who taught her to climb trees, but a specter with hollow eyes, his head dangling from his neck, blood dripping onto her hands. "Is this justice?" he asks, his voice a mournful echo. She wakes in a cold sweat, her heart pounding, guilt gnawing at her like a rat in the walls. She'd kill the monster, yes, but the act has carved a piece from her soul, leaving a void that vengeance can't fill. Yet she can't stop. The fire inside her burns too hot, fueled by the memory of Harrington's smirk, the sound of the axe falling, the sight of Marco's lifeless eyes staring into nothing. Her next target is a baron in Canterbury, a brute who delights in crushing villages under his boot for sport. She infiltrates his household as a servant, scrubbing floors until her knuckles bleed, enduring the guards' leering taunts with a bowed head and a silent promise. She earns the trust of the kitchen maids, learning the baron's routines when he drinks, when he sleeps, when he's alone. One night, as the castle slumbers, she creeps into his chamber, her dagger a cold weight in her hand. The baron stirs, his snores cutting off as her blade finds his heart. It's quick, silent, final, perfect kill. She stands over him, watching the life bleed from his eyes, and feels nothing. No triumph, no relief, just an emptiness that grows with every drop of blood that stains the floor. Word of her deeds spreads, a ripple of fear among the powerful. The Baron's kin unleash their hounds, their howls tearing through the forests as Katerina flees. She hides in barns and hollowed trees, her breath shallow, her mind racing with every snap of a twig. Paranoia becomes her shadow, whispering that every face hides a hunter, every kindness a trap. It's during this flight that she stumbles upon her unlikely allies, ragged band of outcasts, lepers with bandaged limbs, cripples leaning on crooked sticks, orphans with eyes too old for their years. Society has discarded them, but Katerina sees kin in their defiance. They share their meager bread and their hard-won wisdom, teaching her that strength isn't just in a blade, but in the bonds forged in the dark. With their help, she plots her final reckoning in Dover, where Lord Harrington reigns from a castle perched atop jagged cliffs, its walls kissed by the sea's salt spray. He's a titan now, his power swollen by years of unchecked greed, his court a cesspool of sycophants and schemers. Katerina enters as a minstrel, her lute strung with secrets, a slender blade hidden in its hollow belly. The hall is alive with revelry wine flows, laughter booms, and the clink of gold drowns out the cries of the oppressed beyond the walls. She strums her strings, her voice weaving a haunting melody that masks her intent, her eyes locked on Harrington's graying head. He's older now, his face lined with arrogance, but that smirk remains unchanged. She slips into his chambers after the feast. The castle guards, dulled by drink and exhaustion, but Harrington is waiting. He knew she'd come. His sword flashes in the candlelight, steel meeting steel as they clash in a dance of death. Blood spills hers first, a shallow gash across her arm, then his, a deeper wound that paints the floor crimson. She drives her dagger into his chest, the blade sinking to the hilt, and watches as the light fades from his eyes. He falls, a broken king on a throne of dust, and Katerina stands over him, panting, trembling, hollow. Marco is avenged, but the victory is ash in her mouth. She vanishes into the night, her name a whisper on the lips of tavern drunks and frightened lords alike. Some call her a savior, a blade of justice in a world gone mad. Others curse her as a demon, a scourge born of shadow. To her outcast family, she's something else, a light in their endless dark, a woman who faced the abyss and carved her own path through it. Her tale echoes beyond England's shores, a thread in the tapestry of human defiance, like the pioneers who'd one day tame wild lands across an ocean she'd never see. Katerina's journey isn't about glory or redemption, it's about what happens when the world strips you bare and dares you to fight back. This is just the beginning, a glimpse into a world where every choice cuts deeper than a blade, where courage and cunning collide in the shadows. If you felt the weight of Katerina's story, if it stirred something in you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support keeps these tales alive, fueling the fire for more journeys into the depths of history and the human spirit. Now, I have a question for you. If you stood in Katerina's shoes, faced with the choice between vengeance and peace, what would you choose? Comment below with A for vengeance or B for peace. I'm eager to hear where you stand. Queen of the Sands, Hatshepsut, triumphing the golden heart of ancient Egypt, where the Nile's life-giving waters nurtured a civilization of wonders. A woman dared to claim the throne of pharaohs. Hatshepsut, the queen who became king, wielded power with wisdom and vision, leaving behind a legacy etched in stone and time. Her story is not just one of royal lineage or divine right. It is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the power of ambition tempered by compassion, and the courage to redefine what it means to lead. As we journey from the bustling streets of medieval London to the sun-scorched sands of Egypt, we find in Hatshepsut only to rise above it with grace and grit. Around 1500 BCE, in the shadow of Thebes' towering temples, a girl named Hatshepsut was born to Pharaoh Thutmose I and his queen, Amos. From her earliest days, she was steeped in the grandeur and gravity of her lineage. The air she breathed was thick with incense and expectation, the walls around her painted with the deeds of gods and kings. Yet, even as a child, Hatshepsut was not content to merely observe the world from the palace's gilded cage. She wandered the halls, her small fingers tracing the hieroglyphs that told of her ancestors' conquests, her mind alight with questions. Why do we build these monuments? She once asked a priest, her voice a whisper in the vastness of Karnak. To remind ourselves of our place in eternity, he replied. But Hatshepsut already knew there was more she wanted to carve her own place, not just remember it. Her father, Thutmose, I saw in her a spark that mirrored his own. He taught her the art of statecraft, the weight of the double crown, and the delicate balance between power and the people's will. A ruler must be both lion and shepherd, he told her one evening, as they watched the sun sink behind the Nile, fierce in battle, gentle in peace. These words would become the cornerstone of her reign, a guiding star in the desert of doubt that lay ahead. When Thutmose I died, the throne passed to his son, Thutmose II, Hatshepsut's half-brother and husband. It was a union of duty, not desire, and his reign was as fragile as the papyrus reeds that lined the riverbanks. Weak in health and will, Thutmose II leaned heavily on Hatshepsut, who, even as queen, began to wield influence like a scepter. She brokered alliances with wary nobles, quelled whispers of rebellion with a glance, and ensured that the kingdom's granaries remained full. But when Thutmose II succumbed to illness, leaving behind an infant heir, Thutmose III, the court expected Hatshepsut to fade into the background as regent. Instead, she stepped into the light dot in a move that shocked the priests and silenced the scribes. Hatshepsut declared herself pharaoh. She donned the false beard and kilt of kingship, her eyes daring anyone to challenge her. The court held its breath, waiting for the gods to strike her down for such audacity. But the heavens remained silent, and Hatshepsut took it as a sign. She was not just a placeholder. She was the chosen one, destined to lead Egypt into an era of unparalleled prosperity. Her reign was not defined by the clang of swords or the roar of battle cries. While other pharaohs sought glory in conquest, she sought it in creation. Her ambition was not to expand borders, but to elevate the soul of her nation. She commissioned temples that rose like mountains from the desert floor, their columns thick as ancient trees, their walls alive with stories of gods and mortals intertwined. At Deir el-Bahari, her mortuary temple clung to the cliffs, a marvel of ramps and terraces that seemed to grow from the earth itself. It was not just a tomb, it was a bridge between the living and the divine. a place where eternity could be touched. But her greatest triumph was Karnak, the heart of Thebes, where she raised obelisks that pierced the sky like needles of light. These towering monoliths, carved from single blocks of granite, were feats of engineering that baffled even the most seasoned builders. "How will we move them?" her architects asked, their brows furrowed with doubt. "With faith and ingenuity," she replied, and under her watchful eye they devised systems of ropes and sledges, powered by the sweat of thousands, to drag these giants across the sands. When the obelisks stood tall, their tips gleaming with gold, Hatshepsut knelt before them, her heart swelling with pride. She had not just built monuments, she had woven her name into the fabric of time. Yet, for all her grandeur, Hatshepsut never forgot the people who toiled beneath the sun. She walked among them, her sandals kicking up dust, her voice soft as she asked about their lives, their hopes. She ordered the construction of granaries to store surplus grain, ensuring that even in times of drought, no child would go hungry. She reformed the tax system, easing the burden on farmers, and in return they blessed her name in their evening prayers. To them, she was not just a pharaoh, she was a mother, a protector, a living embodiment of Mathadivine order that held the world in balance. Power, even when wielded with wisdom, attracts envy like a flame draws moths. The nobles who had once bowed to her now whispered in shadowed corners, their words sharp as daggers. "A woman cannot be king," they hissed, their pride wounded by her success. And then there was Thutmose III, her stepson, growing into a man with fire in his eyes and ambition in his heart. He was a warrior, trained in the art of war, and he chafed under the rule of a pharaoh who preferred peace to plunder. Hatshepsut saw the storm brewing, but she did not falter. She surrounded herself with loyalist priests who owed their positions to her, generals who had grown rich under her reign, and advisors who believed in her vision. She played the game of politics with the skill of a master musician, each move a note in a symphony of survival. When dissent grew too loud, she quelled it, not with force, but with generosity. Gifts of land, titles, and gold flowed from her hands like water from the Nile. And when Thutmose III returned from his campaigns, his chest puffed with pride, she welcomed him not as a rival, but as a son, draping him in honors and ensuring his place at her side. Yet, for all her political acumen, Hatshepsut was not without her moments of doubt. In the quiet of her chambers, when the palace slept and the stars wheeled above, she would sit by the window, her fingers tracing the curves of her false beard, wondering if she had pushed too far, if the gods truly approved of her audacity. She sought solace in the temples, prostrating herself before Ammon, her prayers a whisper in the incense-laden air. "Guide me," she pleaded, "show me the path." And in the flicker of the sacred flames, she found her answer vision of Egypt flourishing under her rule, her name echoing through the ages. Hatshepsut's reign lasted over 2 decades, a golden age that saw Egypt's wealth and influence reach new heights. Her trade expeditions ventured beyond the known world, her ships returning laden with treasures, ivory from Punt, spices from distant shores, and tales of lands where the sun set in the east. She fostered alliances with neighboring kingdoms, her diplomats carrying not just treaties, but gifts of friendship. Under her rule, Egypt was not feared. but revered a beacon of culture and commerce in a world often shrouded in darkness. But time, like the desert sands, is relentless. As Hatshepsut aged, her grip on power began to slip. Thutmose III, now a seasoned general, grew restless, his eyes turning toward the throne. When Hatshepsut finally passed into the afterlife, her death was not mourned with the grandeur one might expect. Instead, Thutmose III, eager to erase her from history, ordered her name chiseled from the monuments, her statues toppled, her legacy buried beneath layers of stone and silence. Yet, history has a way of defying even the mightiest of kings. Millennia later, in the bustling city of Alexandria, scholars would uncover fragments of her story, piecing together the life of a woman who dared to defy convention. In Thebes, her temples stood defiant, their walls still whispering of a pharaoh who ruled not with an iron fist, but with a heart of gold. Hatshepsut's triumph was not in the battles she won, but in the legacy she left behind, the legacy of creation, compassion, and courage that continues to inspire those who dare to dream beyond the boundaries of their time. Hatshepsut's story is a reminder that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the capacity to build. She was a visionary who saw beyond the horizon, a leader who understood that the strength of a nation is measured not by its armies, but by the prosperity of its people. Her monuments, though scarred by time and envy, still stand as testaments to her greatness, their stones singing a song of resilience and hope. In the annals of history, Hatshepsut is often overshadowed by the warriors and conquerors who came after her, but her legacy is no less profound. She was a trailblazer, a woman who shattered the glass ceiling of her era and proved that leadership knows no gender. Her story resonates across the ages, echoing in the hearts of those who, like her, refuse to be confined by the expectations of others. As we stand on the brink of our own journeys, let us draw inspiration from Hatshepsut's unwavering resolve. Let us remember that the path to greatness is often paved with doubt and defiance, but it is a path worth walking. For in the end, it is not the crowns we wear, but the lives we touch that define our place in eternity. This concludes part 2 of our journey. In the next chapter, we will venture to the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes, where the lost city of Machu Picchu awaits, its secrets hidden in stone and silence. But for now, let us linger a moment longer in the golden sands of Egypt, where a queen once ruled with the heart of a lion and the soul of a shepherd. The stone sentinel, Machu Picchu's secrets, high above the world. Where the Andes cradle the heavens, Machu Picchu clings to the mountainside like a memory etched in stone. This is no mere ruin. It is a sanctuary of secrets, a city that breathes with the pulse of a civilization long gone. The air here is sharp, laced with the scent of moss and mist, and the silence is profound, broken only by the murmur of the wind, weaving through the peaks. To stand within its walls is to feel the weight of centuries, to hear the echoes of a people whose lives were bound to the earth and sky in ways we can scarcely fathom. Machu Picchu is not just a destination, it is a journey into the soul of the past, a mirror reflecting our own longing for meaning. The path to this hidden citadel begins in the mind, long before the body sets foot on the rugged trails that wind through Peru's emerald valleys. It is a place dreamed of in tales whispered by firelight, glimpsed in faded images that hint at its grandeur, but never fully reveal it. Yet, when the clouds part and Machu Picchu emerges terraces spilling down the slopes, its stones glowing. In the dawn light, the heart stumbles. The mountains rise like guardians, their jagged forms softened by blankets of green, while the Urubamba River carves its silver thread through the valley below. This is a landscape that humbles, a canvas painted by forces older than memory, and the city itself seems to grow from it, as natural as the cliffs that cradle it. It was July 24th, 1911, when Hiram Bingham, a man driven by curiosity and the thrill of the unknown, first laid eyes on this marvel. Led by Quechua farmers who spoke of a place called the Old Peak, he hacked through jungle and scaled slopes slick with rain. What he found was a city untouched by time, its walls standing as they had for centuries, its streets empty but alive with the ghosts of their makers. Bingham called it a lost city, but it was never truly lost, only waiting, preserved by the mountains that shielded it from the world. His discovery unveiled Machu Picchu to the modern age, yet it remained a cipher. Its purpose as enigmatic as the mist that cloaks it each morning. Built in the 15th century under the reign of Pachacati, the visionary emperor who forged the Inca Empire, Machu Picchu is a triumph of human will. The Incas were artists of stone, shaping granite with tools of bronze and patience, fitting each block so tightly that the seams are invisible to the eye. The city's terraces defy the steepness of the terrain, their edges sharp against the wild curves of the Andes. Water flows through channels hewn with precision, guiding rain from the heights to sustain life below. This is architecture as poetry, a dialogue between man and mountain, where every line and angle sings of purpose and reverence. To touch these stones is to feel the hands that shaped them, the minds that dreamed them into being. But what was this place? A retreat for royalty, where Pachacati sought solace amid the clamor of his empire. The Intihuatana stone, a sculpted pillar that aligns with the sun's path, suggests a sacred observatory, a clock of the cosmos, marking the solstices with uncanny accuracy. Or perhaps it was a haven for the chosen, a cloister where women wove tapestries of alpaca wool and offered prayers to Inti, the sun god. The bones unearthed here, many belonging to women, whisper of such a possibility. Some call it a fortress, though its isolation speaks more of retreat than defense. Each theory is a thread in a tapestry that refuses to be fully woven, leaving us to wander its paths in wonder. Step into the temple of the sun, where light spills through windows carved to greet the dawn, and you can almost hear the chants of priests, their voices rising with the smoke of sacred fires. The temple of the three windows gazes out over the sacred valley, framing a vista so vast it steals the breath, a testament to the Incas' bond with the land they called Pachamama, Mother Earth. The condor stone lies low, its wings spread in silent flight, a symbol of the spirit soaring between worlds. In the sacred plaza, the air feels charged, as if the stones themselves remember the weight of countless footsteps, the fervor of rituals that bound a people to their gods. These are not ruins. They are chapters in a story that still unfolds, page by page, for those who listen. The Incas built Machu Picchu not to dominate, but to belong. Theirs was a world alive with meaning. Mountains were Apis, divine protectors. Rivers were the lifeblood of the earth. Stars were lanterns guiding the night. The city's design reflects this unity, its structures echoing the patterns of the heavens, its terraces cradling the soil to feed the living. This was a people who understood that survival meant partnership, not conquest. And their legacy is a quiet rebuke to a modern age that often forgets. To stand here is to feel that connection, to sense the rhythm of a life lived in balance, where every act was an offering, every breath a prayer. And yet, Machu Picchu was left behind, its streets emptied, its voices stilled. Why? The question lingers like a shadow across the stones. The Spanish came with steel and smallpox, shattering the empire in the 16th century, but this city bears no scars of war. Disease might have crept through the passes, silent and swift, yet the evidence is thin to few remains, too much order in the abandonment. Perhaps the Incas chose to depart, their mission complete, their secrets sealed within these walls. Or maybe the mountains called them back, drawing them into the embrace of the earth they so revered. Whatever the truth, Machu Picchu's silence is its power, a canvas for the imagination, a challenge to seek answers where none may ever be found. Gaze out from the city's edge, where the world drops away to the river below, and the soul expands to meet the horizon. The peaks stand sentinel, their summits veiled in clouds, their flanks alive with the rustle of leaves and the cries of unseen birds. Time bends here, folding the centuries into a single moment, the Inca's hands shaping stone, Bingham, boots crunching on the path, your own breath mingling with the wind. It is a place that strips away the noise of the present, leaving only the raw pulse of existence. Machu Picchu does not belong to the past. It transcends it, a bridge between what was and what might yet be. There is a magic in these stones, a pull that goes beyond their beauty. Machu Picchu stirs something deep within us, yearning for purpose, a reverence for the unknown. It asks us to measure our lives not by what we take, but by what we leave behind, to find strength in the things that endure. As the sun dips low, bathing the city in amber and shadow, the air grows heavy with a presence that defies words. The stones seem to glow, alive with the spirits of those who walked here, their stories woven into the fabric of the place. In this light, Machu Picchu unveils its truest secret. It is a mirror of the human heart, reflecting our capacity for wonder, our resilience in the face of time. To leave Machu Picchu is to carry it with you not as a memory, but as a call. It whispers of unity, of the courage to build something greater than ourselves, to seek the mysteries that lie just beyond reach. It is a reminder that even in our fleeting lives, we can touch the eternal, leaving echoes that ripple through the ages. As the city fades into the dusk, swallowed by the mountains that have guarded it for so long, the heart aches with a strange joy, a promise to live with the same grace, the same fire that once lit these heights. This is but one chapter in a larger tale. In the pages to come, we will turn to the clash of steel and faith in the Crusades, where the ingenuity of war reshaped the world. But for now, let us pause, caught in the spell of Machu Picchu, where the stones still sing to those who dare to hear. Lords of the flame, siege warfare in the Crusades, the crucible of the Crusades, where faith and fire forged legends. The art of siege warfare reached its zenith, From the towering walls of Jerusalem to the defiant ramparts of Acre, the clash of armies and the ingenuity of engineers shaped the course of history. These were not battles of swift charges or open fields. They were slow, grinding tests of endurance, where every stone thrown, every flame kindled, was a step closer to victory or ruin. The air was thick with smoke and prayer. The ground trembled with the footsteps of men who believed they were fighting for heaven itself. Yet, beneath the banners of faith, there lay a raw, human struggle where courage met cruelty, and the price of devotion was paid in blood and ash. The year was 1099, and Jerusalem, the city of prophets, stood like a jewel encircled by steel. The first crusade had swept across the land, driven by a fervor that burned hotter than the desert sun. They rose like cliffs from the earth, crowned with battlements where archers stood ready, their bows taut, their eyes scanning the horizon for the first glint of armor. Below, the crusaders gathered, a motley host of knights and peasants, their faces gaunt from months of marching, their hearts ablaze with purpose. They had come to claim the holy city, but it would not yield easily. Siege towers, like wooden giants, were hauled forward, their wheels groaning under the weight of timber and iron. Battering rams, tipped with bronze, were ready to pound at the gates, and in the distance the thud of catapults echoed, each launch a prayer for deliverance or destruction. Among the defenders was a man named Iftikhar ad-Dawla, the Fatimid governor, whose resolve was as unyielding as the walls he commanded. Had seen the crusaders approach, their banners fluttering like the wings of vultures, and he knew that surrender was not an option. Jerusalem was not just a city. It was a symbol, a sacred trust. He ordered his men to reinforce the gates, to stockpile arrows and oil, to prepare for a fight that would echo through the ages. On the ramparts, women and children carried stones to hurl at the invaders, their hands raw, their voices raised in defiance. With the first light of day, the Crusaders' siege towers lumbered forward, their shadows stretching across the ground like fingers of fate. Arrows rained down, a deadly hail that clattered against shields and pierced flesh. Men fell, their cries swallowed by the roar of battle. But the towers pressed on, inch by inch, until they kissed the walls. The defenders met them with a fury, born of desperation, their blades clashing in a symphony of steel. Blood slicked the stones, and the air was thick with the stench of sweat and fear. For hours the battle raged, neither side yielding, until at last a breach was made. The Crusaders poured through, a tide of iron and zeal, and Jerusalem's fate was sealed. But victory came at a cost. The streets ran red, the cries of the vanquished mingling with the cheers of the conquerors. The city that had stood as a beacon of faith was now a charnel house, its sanctity shattered by the very hands that sought to claim it. In the aftermath, as the smoke cleared and the dead were counted, there was no joy, only a hollow ache. The Crusaders had won, but at what price? The walls that had held for centuries lay broken, and with them the illusion that faith alone could shield the soul from the horrors of war. Yet the story of siege warfare in the Crusades is not one of despair. It is a testament to human ingenuity, to the relentless drive to overcome the impossible. In 1187, when Saladin laid siege to the Crusader fortress of Kerak, the defenders, led by Reynold of Chatillon, refused to yield. They were outnumbered, their supplies dwindling, but they held on, their courage a flame that refused to be extinguished. Saladin's trebuchets hurled stones day and night, the fortress shaking with each impact, yet still the walls stood. It was only when relief arrived that the siege was lifted and Karak remained in Crusader hands. This was not just a victory of arms, it was a victory of will, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, hope can be a weapon sharper than any sword. The Siege of Acre in 1191 was another chapter in this saga of steel and stone. Richard the Lionheart, his name already a legend, led the Crusader forces against the city's formidable defenses. The summer heat merciless, disease crept through the camps, claiming more lives than the enemy's arrows. Yet Richard pressed on, his determination unwavering. He ordered the construction of massive siege engines, their frames towering over the battlefield. The defenders responded with Greek fire, a blazing inferno that clung to wood and flesh alike, turning the night into a hellscape of flame. But even fire could not break the Crusaders' resolve. After months of brutal combat, Acre fell, its gates splintered, its streets echoing with the footsteps of the victorious. Richard's triumph was a beacon to his allies, a spark that reignited the crusading spirit. But the true lords of the flame were not just the kings and knights. They were the engineers, the unsung heroes whose minds shaped the course of war. Men like Archimedes of Syracuse, whose genius birthed machines that could lift ships from the sea or focus the sun's rays into beams of death. In the Crusades, their heirs crafted trebuchets that could hurl boulders with pinpoint accuracy, siege towers that could scale the highest walls, and mines that could collapse fortifications from below. These were not mere tools, they were extensions of human will, instruments of both creation and destruction. The engineers were the alchemists of war, turning wood and iron into instruments of fate. Their calculations as precise as a poet's verse. Among them was a man named Godfrey of Bouillon, a leader of the First Crusade, whose tactical brilliance was matched only by his piety. It was he who devised the plan to breach Jerusalem's walls, to ward off fire when the towers rolled forward. It was as if the hand of God guided them, each creak and groan a prayer for victory. Godfrey's faith was his shield, his intellect, his sword, and together they carved a path through history. Yet, for all their ingenuity, the sieges of the Crusades were not just contests of technology. They were battles of the spirit. The defenders of Antioch in 1098, trapped within the city's walls, faced starvation and despair. Their supplies were gone, their hope a flickering candle in the dark. But then a miracle, or so it seemed. A peasant named Peter Bartholomew claimed to have found the Holy Lance, the spear that pierced Christ's side. Whether divine gift or clever ruse, it reignited the Crusaders' zeal. They surged from the gates, their banners held high, and routed the besieging army. Faith, in that moment, was more powerful than any catapult. Two were lords of the flame, their courage as fierce as any warrior's. Eleanor of Aquitaine, queen and crusader, rode with her husband Louis VII to the Holy Land, her presence a rallying cry for the troops. She was no mere figurehead. When the Second Crusade faltered, it was Eleanor who urged the men onward, her words a spark that refused to be quenched. And in the sieges, Women fought alongside men, hauling stones, tending wounds, and holding the line when all seemed lost. Their stories are woven into the fabric of history, threads of bravery and sacrifice that shine as brightly as any knight's armor. But the flame of war burns both ways. The siege of Damascus in 1148 was a disaster for the Crusaders. Their forces scattered, their dreams of conquest dashed against the city's unyielding walls. The defenders, led by Nur ad-Din, outmaneuvered them at every turn, their knowledge of the land a weapon as potent as any blade. The Crusaders retreated in shame, their banners tattered, their faith shaken. It was a reminder that even the mightiest armies can falter, that victory is never guaranteed, and that the cost of failure is measured not just in lives, but in the erosion of the soul. The final act of this fiery drama came at the siege of Acre in 1291, the last gasp of the Crusader states. The Mamluks, their armies vast and disciplined, encircled the city, their catapults pounding the walls day and night. The defenders, a dwindling band of knights and citizens, fought with the desperation of the doomed. They knew that Acre was their last stand, that beyond its walls lay only exile or death. For weeks they held out their courage, a defiant flame against the gathering dark. But the Mamluks were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. When the walls finally crumbled, the city fell in a storm of blood and fire. The Crusaders' dream of a Christian kingdom in the Holy Land died with it, consumed by the very flames they had wielded so fiercely. Yet, even in defeat, there is legacy. The sieges of the Crusades reshaped the world, their lessons echoing through the centuries. They taught that war is not just a clash of arms, but a test of wills, where the mind is as crucial as the sword. They showed that courage can flourish in the most desperate of circumstances, that faith can move mountains or, at least, inspire men to climb them. And they reminded us that the true cost of conflict is not measured in territory gained, but in the lives lost, the homes destroyed, the dreams shattered. The lords of the flame were not just the warriors and engineers. They were the poets who sang of their deeds, the chroniclers who recorded their triumphs and tragedies, the artists who immortalized their struggles in stone and paint. They were the mothers who mourned their sons, the children who grew up in the shadow of war, the survivors who carried the scars of battle long after the swords were sheathed. Their stories are the embers that still glow in the ashes of history, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit can shine with a light that refuses to be extinguished. As we stand on the threshold of our own challenges, let us draw strength from their example. Let us remember that the walls we face, whether of stone or spirit, can be breached with courage, ingenuity, and an unyielding belief in something greater than ourselves. The flame of the Crusades has long since dimmed, but its lessons burn bright, a beacon for all who dare to dream, to fight, to endure. This concludes part 4 of our journey. In the next chapter, we will venture into the mists of time, where the echoes of ancient civilizations still whisper their secrets. But for now, let us linger a moment longer in the heat of battle, where the lords of the flame forged their legends in the fires of war. Conclusion: timeless journeys, lessons for the soul from the shadowy alleyways of medieval London, where Katarina's silent blade carved a path through corruption, to the sun-drenched temples of ancient Egypt, where Hatshepsut etched her name into eternity. From the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes, where Machu Picchu stands as a testament to human ingenuity, to the flame-lit battlements of the Holy Land, where siege warfare tested the limits of courage and strategy, we have journeyed through stories that transcend time and place. Each tale, though separated by centuries and continents, is bound by an invisible thread, the unbreakable spirit of humanity. These are not just echoes of the past. They are mirrors reflecting our own struggles, dreams, and the relentless pursuit of purpose. As we stand at the crossroads of history and self-discovery, let us draw from these stories the lessons that can inspire and guide us in our own lives. Katerina, the silent blade, and the cost of justice. Katerina's journey began in the depths of loss. A wound carved into her soul by the unjust execution of her brother drove her into the shadows, where vengeance became her only light. Her story is one of resilience, a woman who dared to stand against a world of oppression. Yet, when her blade finally struck down Lord Harrington, the victory was hollow, leaving her with a void that vengeance could not fill. Through Katerina, we learn that while the fire of revenge may warm us for a moment, it often consumes the one who wields it. The lesson here is not to abandon justice, but to rise above pain and channel it into something greater. Ask yourself, when faced with injustice, will you let it define you through bitterness, or will you transform it into a force for positive change? Katerina reminds us that true strength lies not in retaliation, but in the courage to move forward, even when the path is heavy with scars. Hatshepsut, a beacon of vision and creation in the golden sands of Egypt. Hatshepsut rose like a phoenix, defying the constraints of her time to become a pharaoh whose legacy outshines many of her male counterparts. Born into a society that did not reserve the throne for women, she shattered expectations and ruled with a vision that prioritized creation over conquest. Her temples, trade routes, and era of peace were not just feats of leadership, but acts of love for her people. Hatshepsut's story teaches us that true leadership is not about dominance, but about uplifting others. She built not for glory, but for the prosperity of her nation, ensuring that even in times of scarcity, her people thrived. For us today, her life is a call to lead in our own spheres, whether in our homes, workplaces, or communities, by fostering growth and compassion. Ask yourself, what are you building for the future? Hatshepsut shows us that what we create with love and foresight will endure far longer than any victory won by force. Machu Picchu, a symphony of ingenuity and harmony, perched high in the Andes. Machu Picchu emerges like a dream sculpted from stone. This city is not merely an architectural marvel. It is a symbol of humanity's ability to live in harmony with nature. The terraced fields that embrace the mountains, the temples that gaze upon the sacred valley, and the stones fitted so perfectly that not even a blade can slip between them all, speak to a people who did not just build, but listened to the whispers of the earth. The Incas revered the mountains as protectors, the rivers as lifeblood, and the stars as guides. The mystery of Machu Picchu's true purpose, its abandonment, reminds us that not every question needs an answer. Sometimes beauty lies in the wonder itself. As we marvel at this lost city, we are invited to reflect on our own relationship with the world around us. How can we, like the Incas, create in ways that honor and sustain the earth? Machu Picchu challenges us to build not just for today, but for the generations yet to come, with reverence for the natural world that cradles us all. Lords of the flame, the art of war and the spirit of resilience in the fiery crucible of the Crusades, where faith and steel collided. We witnessed the ingenuity and courage of those who fought not just for land, but for belief. The sieges of Jerusalem, Acre, and beyond were not mere contests of strength. They were tests of the human spirit. From the defenders who held their ground against overwhelming odds to the engineers who turned wood and iron into instruments of fate. These stories reveal that war, for all its horror, can also illuminate the heights of human resilience. Yet, the cost was immeasurable: lives lost, cities razed, and dreams shattered. Through these tales, we learn that true victory is not in conquest, but in the ability to endure, to adapt, and to find meaning even in the darkest hours. Ask yourself, when faced with your own battles, how will you summon the courage to stand firm? The Lords of the Flame teach us that resilience is not the absence of fear, but the will to keep moving forward, even when the path is obscured by smoke. The universal thread, our shared humanity. Though these stories span different eras and cultures, they are united by a common thread: the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. Katarina's fight for justice, Hatshepsut's visionary leadership, the Incas' harmony with nature, and the Crusaders' resilience in battle all reflect the universal struggles we face today. Whether we are battling personal demons, striving to lead with integrity, seeking balance in a chaotic world, or enduring hardships beyond our control, these stories remind us that we are not alone. History is not a distant relic. It is a living tapestry, woven with the threads of our shared humanity. Each of us carries within us the potential to rise, to create, to endure. Katarina's journey, though fraught with pain, inspired whispers of hope among the oppressed. Hatshepsut's monuments still stand as beacons of possibility. Machu Picchu's stones continue to awe and inspire. The lessons of the Crusades echo. In our modern understanding of conflict and courage, ask yourself, what will your legacy be? Will it be one of division or unity, destruction or creation, despair or hope? The choices we make today, no matter how small, ripple through time, shaping the world for those who follow. A call to action. Join the journey as we conclude this journey through time. I invite you to carry these stories with you, not as distant memories, but as sparks to ignite your own path. Let Katarina's courage remind you that even in the darkest moments, you have the strength to stand up for what is right. Let Hatshepsut's vision inspire you to lead with wisdom and compassion, building bridges where others see walls. Let Machu Picchu's harmony challenge you to live in balance with the world around you, and let the resilience of the Crusaders fuel your determination to persevere, no matter the odds. But the journey doesn't end here. History is an endless well of inspiration, and there are countless more stories waiting to be told, tales of triumph, tragedy, and the timeless quest for meaning. If these stories have moved you, if they've stirred something deep within your soul, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Your support is the wind in our sails, improvisation driving us to uncover more hidden gems from the past and share them with you. Together, we can continue to explore the depths of human experience, finding light in the shadows and wisdom in the whispers of history. So, take a moment, now hit that subscribe button, and join us on this ongoing adventure. Let's keep the flame of curiosity alive, and together, we'll discover just how much the past can teach us about who we are and who we can become. Final thought: in the grand tapestry of time, we are both the inheritors and the creators. Let us honor those who came before by living with purpose, leading with heart, and leaving behind a world a little brighter than we found it.